Okay, sir. Essentially, through the morning, firstly, it's the 58th annual convention.
Yes.
What was the objective and did you achieve what you set out for?
Okay. The theme of the conference today was auto component industry preparing for the future. And as you know, the entire automotive industry in India as well as the world around is undergoing tremendous changes, transformations, disruptions. And, the government here is talking about introduction of electric mobility. There's a slew of regulatory changes that the industry is going through. We are moving from BS4 to BS6. There are a whole lot of safety regulations that we need to be compliant with.
Right.
The emission regulations that we need to be compliant with. That apart, the government is talking about introduction of biofuels, ethanol, methanol. So these are indeed very, very challenging times because this requires a lot of investment from the industry side. So there was some degree of, or there is some degree of ambiguity in the environment, and our intent was one, to allay some of those fears, in a way tell the industry that look, while it may be ambiguity, but it's not like the end of the world. You need to be preparing yourself for the technology changes that are facing us today, and there are a whole lot of opportunities also that these changes are throwing up on us. So we need to be ready to grab them, but it's much easier said than done. You need a whole lot of preparation for that. You need the right skill set, you need the right kind of investment, you need access to technology. So, in all, today we were debating and maybe sort of trying to figure out the amorphous future.
Going a little on the numbers.
Yeah.
Last couple of years,
Yes.
I'll not say quarters, last couple of years, because it's the transition that we're seeing.
Yes.
In 2016, we saw a bit of a lull, then we've seen a bit of a growth.
Yes.
How is that spike going on now?
So I think these are very good times for the industry despite all the challenges facing us. The vehicle industry had a bountiful year last year, and the auto component industry in tandem has grown really very, very well. We are now a $51 billion industry as against $43.5 billion last year.
Yes.
Our exports have grown 24%. This is the highest ever growth that we've witnessed in exports. And what also makes us very proud is that we export a third of our production. So all in all, today looks very nice. It inspires a lot of confidence. But again, as I said, the future is somewhat amorphous. So we need to prepare ourselves for the future to stay relevant, to remain competitive. So that's how it is. Yeah.
While you've grown, which is commendable, there's an undercurrent of a slowdown in manufacturing per se.
Yes.
Components manufacturing, how has that impacted?
I don't think so. There's a slowdown that we are looking at. Unlike other sectors, the auto component industry continues to grow. We are looking, maybe, month on month there could be a little variation, but even for an year-on-year outlook, we think things would be much better. Many things, we had a bountiful monsoon this year, so that's going to bring in better farm equipment sales. Two-wheeler and motorcycles continue to be doing very, very well. The government is preparing for elections, so there will be expectation of rural spend. There would be SUVs pick up. Government is doing a lot of infrastructure spending, so commercial vehicles will do well. And also, we're expecting a lot of pre-buying because of the BS6 implementation by 2020. And it is expected that post BS6, the prices of the vehicles will significantly go up. So there's going to be a lot of pre-buying. So at least till April 2020, I don't see the industry I see the industry doing extremely well. There is no concern.
Now, as a body on the whole, you have a significant contribution in terms of uplifting the auto components industry. Trade promotion is one, technology upgradation, quality enhancement. So on all these aspects, how have you fared in the last couple of years?
You see, it's an ongoing journey. The expectation of the customer keeps on increasing, and we had to sort of keep on contributing to it, keep on enhancing it. So we have for the first time announced setting up of the ACMA Center of Excellence. This has been a long pending agenda with us. We've been at it for almost 5 to 6 years, and it's now really come to a fructification. So that's something very, very good, and we wish to replicate these kind of center of excellence in all the automotive hubs. So that's the next point that we have to sort of scale up to. So all in all, I think we do whatever is expected of us, not to forget that we are a not-for-profit organization. So in that sense that while what we do is a drop in the ocean, but at least we're making that effort to sensitize the industry to be future ready, to be prepared for the future.
How do you tackle the arguments or critiques who say that the MSME industry has taken a hit owing to various regulations coming in place, GST demonetization being the obvious ones?
You see, there are two sides of a coin. I think a lot, while I do appreciate that MSMEs are smaller companies, so their capacity to deal with change is so much limited. Their access to technology is so much limited. Their ability to retain good talent is very, very limited. But despite that, because the industry continues to do well, the value chain is flourishing. Okay. But the point is that the real winners would be those who actually sort of focus on technology and quality. So, you cannot compromise on these two things. I guess that's how it will be.
While you speak of growth, the aftermarket in particular, you had a growth of 25.6% in the previous year, and now the growth is about 9.8%. So in a sense, relatively, there is a dip. How do you see that?
No, it's not a dip actually. What had happened was last year we did a correction in the methodology in which we were collating the aftermarket information. So to that level you saw a spike, but it was not actually a spike. I mean, if you read our reports with an asterisk, it says that we have changed the methodology in which as to how we were computing the aftermarket. The aftermarket continues to be robust. Yes, aftermarket did take a hit after demonetization, but it's again on the growth path because the vehicle park is increasing, and now with the GST coming on board, there is a lot of cleanup happening in the aftermarket. So it's only the good players that the organized players that who would in the long run either you become good or you are actually compliant to the laws of the land, and then that's how you move ahead.
In one of the sessions in the afternoon, the last concluding one, there was a sentence said by Mr. Mehta saying that times are changing and we need to change with it too, referring to electromobility and other changes that are coming in the system. Now, FAME 2 outlay, how has it been received by the components industry? Are they, do they see that as a positive move, or there is something falling short of expectations?
So we do not have an exact breakup of the FAME 2 allocation. We're extremely happy that the government continues with FAME 2 because the FAME is now FAME 1 and FAME 2. So we're happy that the FAME continues. And it's important to ensure that there is a focus on localization because the entire value add in the industry is because of localization. And what we have made a plea to the government is that there should be fund allocation for acquisition of technology, for development of technology, which is very critical because the country does not have those kinds of technologies, and technology is one area where that will define the future competition. So it's very important to enable happening of technology in the country, and we do hope that the government would have heard our plea, and let's see how the actual plan is.
Now we move into the last leg of the questionnaire. One thing that ACMA has done in the past is you all have always voiced your opinion for a progression from ICE engines to hybrids to electrification. We don't seem to be going towards hybridization with the FAME 2 outlay in specific, leaving out strong hybrids. It's printed in bold saying that strong hybrids are exempted. Your say on that?
Well, you see, we can make a plea to the government, but it's at the end of the day, we are good citizens of the country, and we have to comply to what the regulations come out. So if the government hasn't heard us, too bad, and we have to then see how we move ahead. And I guess if if at all the industry fumbles, stumbles, then the government should be willing to take the blame.
Right. You spoke of growth in exports also.
Yes.
My observation was that exports, particularly to the USA, were about 23%, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
How do you see this skewed ratio? Do you hope for an even distribution across other growing markets?
Well, I think it's a very interesting question. You see, globally, the size of the OE market and the aftermarket are almost same, 50-50%.
Right.
And the global the component industry is about $1 trillion. So 50% of that is aftermarket,
right,
and 50% that is OE supply. Overall, our exports are very skewed to the OE supply.
Yes.
So one, there's an opportunity for us to look at the aftermarket exports. In terms of geographies, I think ACMA in its initial years, we were 80% supplying to the aftermarket, and we made a conscious effort to focus on quality. And as our quality got recognized, more and more OE started picking up, and they became a very sizable customer base.
Right.
And if you look at it, largely we export to the US and the European OEs.
Yes.
And if you look at the overall export and import data also, India's overall export to Japan or to Korea has been somewhat limited. It's also a cultural issue that comes by, because the Japanese typically operate in what's called karetsu, or the Koreans operate in chaebols,
right,
and it's like flirting out of these is sacrilegious. Okay,
right.
So there are certain cultural issues which have, in a way, not helped us do our exports to other geographies. But maybe Europe and US have been relatively open in terms of sourcing from other parts of the world,
right,
and maybe we've done well. That's one of the possible reasons that I could think of.
From exports to imports, there again one can't help but notice the rising imports from China. So how is that a threat to the domestic industry?
So imports from China is definitely a big concern for us. What's very notable is that of the top 5 importing countries that we have, the maximum is from China, and the other countries that we import are from Japan, Thailand. Thailand is a very big Japanese manufacturing base, okay, and then there is Germany, and then I think there is US, if I'm not mistaken. So of these various destinations, no, it's South Korea and not US. So what you would look at is that South Korea and Japan, and European countries, we have the OEMs from these places in India, but if there is no Chinese OEM in the country, and yet the imports from China are the maximum. One, of course, is that people could be importing because of either pricing reasons, or they could be importing because of non-availability or capacity shortfall in the domestic items, certain items in the domestic market. And the other thing is that a lot of the imports that happen in China are largely for the aftermarket.
Right.
And you must know, in the aftermarkets, there are no prescribed or mandated standards. While when we supply to the vehicle industry, there are the automotive industry standards,
right,
but on supplying to the aftermarket, there are no mandated standards, and that leaves a big door ajar for counterfeits and substandard items to be imported into the country.
Right. One question from my colleague.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
So, Mr. Mehta, towards the end of the presentation, Mr. Taneja rightly pointed out that even though government is trying to help the components industry, but still they are playing somewhere in the dark. They're talking about ethanol and methanol, but do you think that is the government's actually helping you, or is it just...
No, I think where the component industry is coming from is that there are way too many changes being talked at the regulatory front. The industry needs to... I began by saying that there's a change happening from BS4 to BS6. I mentioned about the electric mobility being rolled out, and I said that the government is talking about fuels, biofuels, ethanol and methanol, And all these require a lot of technical changes in the heart of the car or a vehicle, which is the engine and the transmission. You know, in certain cases they go out of the window. Okay, so what is being asked for is that can there be a definite roadmap that the government gives to us with definite timelines, so that the industry can invest in these appropriate areas.
Right.
You know, so see, the engine remains the same. So, but then like a petrol engine is not the same as the diesel engine, and therefore an engine that takes a mix of ethanol or methanol will be different.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of R&D that needs to be done, and not just R&D. It's a question of a lot of the material science, the raw material that would be, you know, put to test. The engine manufacturer or the component manufacturer supplying to the engine manufacturer will have to play with these kind of raw materials to ensure not just the efficiency and the running part of it, but also to make sure, you know, that the temperature part of it, how does the system behave in terms of an operating dynamic system.
Right.
Yeah.
Sum it up all
Yeah.
for ACMA, short to medium to long-term growth areas and challenge areas.
Growth area, of course, the market continues to grow very well.
Right.
The Automotive Mission Plan 2026 envisages a very robust industry. We're looking at a $200 billion component industry by 2026, exports scaling up to $80 billion. So the future is a pot of gold there.
Right.
But I guess the road to that pot of gold is really very potholed at this juncture. We need somebody to really make sure the road is steamrolled well and the potholes are removed. But then that's India. We continue to go despite that.
Right. All the best on that humongous challenge.
Pleasure.
Thank you for sparing your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, I hope.